She stood on the edge of the tarmac, eyes fixed on the row of Apaches lined up like beasts waiting for war. The heat rolled in waves off the metal, and the noise of drills rang in the distance, but she heard none of it. Her mind was on the moment. They told her nothing, had looked at her paperwork, frowned at the name, double-checked the credentials, and still shook their heads. The board had decided the Apache rotation was full, and her background was too unorthodox for the seat her flight hours. For solid, her test scores were above the threshold, but her resume was not standard, not traditional, not SAFA. Told her to wait, to take a support role, to shadow a more experienced pilot, to learn the ropes, but she had already flown combat inserts, already pulled soldiers from hot zones, already put steel down on targets. Through blackout smoke, said nothing when they passed her over again. Instead, she ran the simulator drills harder, pushed her hours higher, flew night missions with crews who trusted her without needing to ask where she had come from. Word started to spread in the hangar about the new pilot who never missed a check, who nailed the landing in a crosswind that grounded the senior officers, who could run the full start sequence from memory. Blindfolded still, the board held the line. No combat rotation for her until one day the colonel walked through the hangar, tall, broad, jaw set like iron. He was known for breaking silence with orders and ending debates with a stare. He stopped when he saw her hunched over the open panel of an Apache, running diagnostics faster than the techs around her. Stepped closer, asked one question about her last assignment, and she answered without looking up because she already knew. The tone of his voice meant this was not about politeness, it was about precision. Nodded and turned to leave, then paused and narrowed his eyes as the edge of her collar shifted in the breeze, revealing the ink across her neck, small, dark, clean. A unit mark most had never seen. Recognized it immediately and said nothing. Instead, he walked out, and within hours her name was posted on the active Apache rotation with a note that said confirmed, cleared for fly. The other pilots read it and said nothing because now they were curious. Now they wondered what she had done, where she had been, and what kind of unit earned that mark. Showed up the next morning before sunrise, checked her bird twice, and sat in the seat like she was born. In it, her hands steady, her eyes forward, waiting for the call. It came, fastened when the blades kicked up and the ground slipped away beneath her. She said nothing because flying spoke louder than any argument ever could. The engines roared to life, the vibrations running through the frame like a heartbeat. She gripped the controls, steady, calm, breathing in rhythm with the machine. The desert stretched out below, endless and unforgiving, the sun barely rising, casting long shadows over the Dunisher. Team strapped in behind her, quiet, focused, the weight of the mission pressing down like the heat on their helmets. Every second counted, every decision critical. She scanned the horizon, not just with her eyes, but with her instincts honed over years. In the field, the route was complex, winding through canyons and high ridges known for sudden wind shifts and enemy patrols. She adjusted the throttle, feathered the pedals, feeling the aircraft respond like an extension of herself, her mind a web of calculations and reaction. She approached the target zone, silent and swift, a shadow among shadows. The call came over the comms, coordinates locked, weapons ready. She took a deep breath and gave the signal. First volley was precise, hitting a high value target, disabling communications and sowing confusion among the enemy ranks. The team moved with practiced efficiency, covering each other, watching each angle. She led with quiet confidence, commanding without a word. Suddenly, fire erupted from an unexpected flank, bullets ricocheting off the Apache. Her heart rate surged, but her hands did not falter. She executed evasive maneuvers, drawing enemy fire away from her team, directing the pilot behind her to cover a wounded operator. Sky filled with smoke and noise, but her focus never wavered, each decision a lifeline for those below. She navigated through the chaos, threading the helicopter between cliffs and smoke clouds, the mission hanging in the balance. As the extraction point came into view, she coordinated the landing zone, timing the descent with flawless precision. The ground team rushed aboard, no hesitation, no mistakes. The helicopter lifted with urgency, piercing the smoky air, leaving danger behind. Back at base, the debrief was intense. Questions fired rapid and sharp. She answered clearly with details only someone who had been there could provide. Her calm honesty and sharp insight turned skeptics into believers. Colonel listened quietly, taking notes, his gaze occasionally Flicking to the tattoo on her neck, the symbol that had once silenced doubt now stood as a testament to her skill, and courage word spread fast across the base. The pilot with the tattoo had not only flown the Apache, but had led a mission with precision and bravery beyond expectation. The team that doubted her now looked at her with respect and a hint of a wish, kept her head down, continued her work, flying missions, training others, and pushing herself harder. The tattoo was no longer just a mark of past service, it had become a symbol of future leadership, a beacon for those who followed. The days that followed tested her in ways she had never imagined. The missions grew tougher, the targets more elusive, and the stakes higher. Every sortie was a dance with danger, a test of skill, nerves, and trust. She felt the weight of every eye on her, some watching with skepticism, others with a push. Pushed herself harder than ever, waking before dawn, running simulations, flying late into the night, her mind replaying every maneuver, every decision, looking for ways to improve, to anticipate the unexpected, outthink the enemy, and outfly doubt. Their teammates began to change. The cold stares turned into nods of respect, the questions quieted, replaced by cautious conversations. She shared her knowledge freely, helping others sharpen their skills, but never boasting or drawing attention to herself. One evening, after a long mission, she found herself alone on the flight line, the Apache resting in the last light, the tattoo on her neck burning softly like a secret kept between her and the sky. She ran her fingers over it, feeling the stories etched into her skin, the sacrifices made and the battles fought. Colonel approached silently, standing beside her without a word. He looked up at the fading light and then back at her, the unspoken understanding between them stronger than any orders or briefings. Finally spoke, his voice low, steady, saying, "You have what it takes to lead, not just fly, to inspire, not just follow." And she nodded, knowing the road ahead was not easy, but that she was no longer alone. From that night forward, her role shifted. She became a mentor, a leader, guiding new pilots through the challenges she had faced, breaking down walls and building bridges. The tattoo was no longer just a symbol of her past, it was a beacon lighting the way forward. Her story spread beyond the base, inspiring others who felt out of place or underestimated, reminding them that courage and skill could rewrite any rule, and that sometimes the greatest strength came from carrying the marks of those who came before. The sun was barely up when the call came through. The base was buzzing with quiet urgency, the kind that told her this was no drill, this was real, and everything they had trained for was about to be tested. She met the team at briefing, the maps laid out, the targets identified, and the stakes clear. Intelligence reported a rogue compound housing enemy assets deep in hostile territory. The mission was to infiltrate, neutralize, and extract with precision and speed. As she suited up, the familiar weight of gear and helmet settled over her shoulders, a comfort, not a burden. Her tattoo burned under the collar, a reminder of every step that had led to this moment. Flight was tense from the start. Radio chatter was heavy with updates and caution, but she remained focused, scanning the instruments, monitoring wind and altitude, calculating approach angles, and keeping the team tight. They descended low into the canyon, moving with the shadows, avoiding radar and patrols. Every second measured, every breath controlled. The team trusted her instincts, and she trusted theirs. The compound appeared ahead, small but heavily fortified. She directed the approach, slow, steady, and silent. They hit the perimeter, planting charges, disabling communications, and disabling sentries with swift precision. Suddenly, the alarms blared and chaos erupted, but she kept calm, calling out maneuvers, adjusting plans on the fly, directing the extraction route through narrow passages and dense trees. Bullets whizzed past and explosions rocked the ground, but the team moved like one living machine, coordinated and unbreakable, with her leading the way, guiding each step through danger with a steady hand and sharp eyes. When they reached the extraction point, the helicopter was late, a minute to slow, and that minute felt like an eternity, but she covered the team, holding position, repelling advances until the blades finally roared to life, lifting them from the fight. Back at base, the debrief was quick, but her report was clear, every detail noted, every success and every flaw ready to learn, ready to improvise. The colonel met her afterward, a rare smile breaking his usual stoic demeanor. He said that was the kind of leadership that changes the course, not just of A mission, but of a team. She nodded quietly, knowing this was not the end but just another step in a longer journey. Despite the mission's success, whispers lingered in the shadows. Doubts about her place in the squad persisted. The old guard questioned her origins, her rapid rise, her quiet confidence. They remembered the hesitation before and wondered if it would return when it mattered most. She ignored the murmurs, focusing instead on training, pushing herself harder, flying longer, studying every detail she knew. Proving herself was a battle fought on two fronts, one in the air and one on the ground. With every skeptical glance and every whispered word, night after hours, she found herself alone in the hangar, the giant machine silent and looming around her. She ran through her checklists again and again, the tattoo on her neck tingling like a pulse, reminding her of promises made and futures earned. Her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps. A familiar voice broke the silence. It was the senior pilot, one of the harshest critics, who approached cautiously with a question. Did she really belong? Haresh met his gaze steady and said, "Not because I asked to be here, but because I earned it on every flight, on every mission, and I will keep earning it as long as it." Takeshi studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The silence between them shifted from challenge to respect. Word spread quickly. After that exchange, the team began to see not just the pilot, but the person behind the tattoo. The story behind the silence and the strength behind the kanji became a symbol not just of skill, but of resilience, of breaking barriers and rewriting rules. With every flight, she inspired others to push past doubt and to trust in their own strength. Colonel watched quietly from a distance, proud not just of her skill, but of how she handled the storm of skepticism and rose above it unbroken. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but with every challenge she faced, she carried the tattoo like armor, a reminder that she was part of something bigger, something that demanded courage, sacrifice, and unyielding dedication. Dawn broke soft over the base, a golden light spreading across the runway. She stood alone by the helicopter, the familiar weight of the helmet in her hands, the cool morning air brushing against her skin, and the tattoo burning like a quiet promise beneath her collar. Today was different. The mission was critical, a high-stakes rescue deep behind enemy lines, the kind that demanded more than skill. It demanded trust, courage, and unwavering calm under pressure. She climbed into the cockpit, the controls greeting her like old friends, her mind sharp, her body ready, the team strapped in behind her faces focused, trusting her with their lives and hers. She felt the pulse of the helicopter beneath her, a living thing responding to her every move. Flight was tense from the moment they lifted off the ground, the landscape a maze of danger, with threats hidden in every shadow. Radio chatter crackled with updates and commands, her eyes scanning instruments, terrain, and sky simultaneously. You prick the target zone. The enemy was alert and prepared. The team was pinned down under fire. The seconds stretched and every heartbeat was a countdown. She called out maneuvers, directed suppressive fire, and kept the helicopter steady, balancing speed and safe. The landing was rough but precise. The ground team rushed aboard, no hesitation, no panic, only focus and execution. She lifted off into the air, weaving through threats with the same grace and determination that had marked every step of her journey. Back at base, the mission was hailed a success, but for her it was something more. A moment of vindication, the tattoo on her neck no longer just a mark of past battles, but a symbol of earned trust and proven leadership. Colonel approached her later, his expression rare and unguarded. He said, "You changed everything, not just for yourself, but for everyone who will follow you." She smiled quietly, knowing the road had been hard, but the fight was worth every moment. The sky outside was wide and waiting, and she was ready to fly higher than ever before.